enjoy the feeling that it gives me in doing what I do. I'm a single parent. My son looks at me. He knows where his dad is. He knows his dad's at work. When I get off work, I'm dirty. You know, he's been up there with me, seen me working sometimes. So, and my family, they're looking at me, knowing that makes me feel real good. When I speak to my grandmother who lives out of town, and my mom, my great grandmother, aunts, cousins, I tell them, you know, I'm working. I got a good job. I'm working, making honest money, and I'm not in the streets. I get off work, I'll go home and take a shower, and I'll usually go to bed because I'm tired. You know, so everybody always knows where to find me at. If I'm not at work, I'm at home. But it makes me feel real good to get somewhere and do it in a positive way. My family shares something else with you. We had an article in the paper that explained a little bit about the TEACH program, went into a little depth about what's going on, and I was at work, and I had like 5 or 6 calls telling me, "You're in the paper, I seen you in the paper," and I read what it said, and I had explained to them what the program was about and what I was involved in, but they didn't really grasp onto it. But then after they read that, they found out a little bit more about it. And I even had people, family members and friends asking me, well, how do I get on up there? How do I get a job? And, you know, come to the classes, you listen to John, listen to the speakers, and, you know, get you a job. It's going to be rough, but, you know, you can make it too, so.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Abraham, you also were quoted in that article, I believe, that Mr. Stewart is making reference to. And I believe you had said that you were making $30,000 a week.
Yes.
And first of all, share with our viewers what you were doing, and then how that has changed. Because there's somebody sitting out there saying, you know, wait a minute, working hard all day long in this hot sun, making, and I think Mr. Gregory said $6, $7, $9 an hour, which is not bad, but you know, it ain't $30,000 a week.
Right.
What's up with that?
First, it's what I was doing to make that type of money was wrong, you know. But it's now, you know, that I'm in this program, I can't be ashamed of it because I've changed. It's I turned all of the negative into a positive, because all of the energy that I was putting into being a drug dealer, I'm putting my energy into be a positive role model, you know, to my daughters, to other kids that's in the community, to other people that watch me come from knee-high to how high I am now. All of my elders that's off of the street that I grew up on, you know, they read the article, and when I went and walked through the neighborhood, and it was like they was shaking my hand, you know, and sat down and talked to me for a half hour here, walked a couple more houses, a half hour there. And, you know, they said, you know, one thing, Abraham, you always been a respectable young man. And, you know, it's, that takes me back to my first day in class. You know, when John said, you know, because when I went in there, I looked like the streets. So, and that's why I was headed, to the streets. But something made me turn the opposite way, and I went straight there, you know, so that's how I came. But when I went there and John was talking, I remember reading the Bible, and it said, as long as you got the faith over, I don't know if I'm quoting this right, but it's something about the mustard seed.
Pretty small, isn't it?
Right. And I know I got that. And I know it's grown. And that's what gives me that drive to keep going and going and going. I don't want to stop. And when I'm around John and Mr. Newberry or anyone that comes in to, you know, the TEACH program that got knowledge, I'm like a leech. I'm gonna talk their ear off. You know, John said I talk too much, so what? You know, I still, you know, I want that.
You want to know?
You know,
so you want the knowledge, I think.
Right. That's what I want.
But Jim, let me say this: when Abraham came into the program, I said, okay, him and there's about 4 other guys, and they look like thuggish and ruggish modes. And I said, well, who are the thugs here today? And I said, stand up, and he stood up, and I said, you know, at some point in time in our life, we got to change how we dress and change how we look. And one of the guys challenged me. He says, "Why we gotta look like the white man?" And so we began to talk about that. And I said, "Okay, what does the white man look?" I said, "Now the baggy pants," and so he began to give me an education about it was what they wore in slavery. So I asked him, I said, "So you would rather wear what you wore in slavery, big pants and big clothes?" I said, "So you'd rather wear slavery clothes than clothes that might get you a job and some money?" And the next day, Abraham came, and he was dressed differently. I didn't even recognize him. I said, "Where's Abraham?" He said, "Here I am."
Outstanding. Well, you raise an interesting point here, and I think it's one that we want to bring in Rick White, because here is somebody in our community. First of all, Rick, are you a Columbus native?
I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio.
From Cleveland, Ohio. But how long have you been in Columbus?
I've been in Columbus about 16, 17 years.
17 years almost now. And what do you do here in the city?
I work hard. But I run a Midwest investments and management company, and we do rehab on houses that's distressed. I have several different rehab companies. We also, what we do is I take a wholesale investor, which I call them. They want to make some money, turn either some cash or use their credit to actually make money, cash on the wholesale end, and we get the houses prepared and ready. Through the rehab program, we get people to live in it, and after it's ready and we have the renters in there, then we sell them to the retail investors, and they'll take it and they make a little bit of money and have residual cash for 30 years, however long they decide to keep it.
Mr. White, though, but how is it that that's the road that you chose to take? I mean, what about your upbringing? Now, you were in Cleveland, you're growing up years, it sounds like, but what about your situation, though? And we've got some guys here who may have been similarly situated growing up and so forth, come from good neighborhoods. Is that right, by the way? Everybody come from a great neighborhood, right? Well, maybe not, maybe not. But people, let me say it differently. People, though, who cared about you,
Right.
have been around you in your lifetime, correct? Okay. So why is it that you chose to do what you chose to do? How is it that you are successful? Are you the exception to the rule?
No, I grew up in Cleveland, and my mom died when I was 13 years old, and I was a wreck after that for probably about 2 or 3 years, and then I really changed my life when I came to Columbus with my sister. She pulled me out of the mess of the Cleveland streets because I wasn't going nowhere. And I still got in Columbus, and I finished high school, and I still had a few issues when it came to being good and bad, but I got into a situation where I almost went to jail, and God grabbed me right then and there, and it was clear. I was laying on the bed, and he said, either you would change your life and you would set me into your life, or you would spend your life in prison. So I said, well, I don't think I want to go to prison the rest of my life, so I decided to accept him into my life. But what really, really was a turning point for me, one of my family members was in the streets. They was making nice money, and I was looking, and I was like, man, you making some good money. Man, maybe I ought to do that. And God caught me again. So I had to give all, where I am today, I have to give all credit to God, because for some reason he chose me to be the one that he stops and apprehends and says, look, here's death, here's jail, or here's life, and you'll have the blessings of life. And he also told me at that time, he said, if you go the wrong way, you'll end up, it'll be temporal. But if you go my way, you will always grow and it'll be everlasting. And that promise that he gave me like 15 years ago, it gets better and better each year. So
your spiritual grounding at this point in time, and this was a new thing for you, really, really enhanced your opportunity to become who you are today, a very
Yes.
successful business person.
Yes.
I want to bring Reverend McGee into this. I want to also correct myself a little early on. His company now is called actually Manifesting Excellence Now Institute. So I'm going to correct myself early on. You've been sitting and listening to this conversation. And Reverend McGee, what are your thoughts about what you've heard thus far? And how is it that you are doing within the Institute to try to make a difference also in the community?
Well, I'm sitting here and I'm feeling it's a privilege just to be able to be here and be a part of this, you know. And I was content just to hear these brothers speak. The joy and excitement I get from seeing folks' lives change, that's the passion that drives me today. The Manifesting Excellence Now Institute grew up out of a program I designed some 7 years ago that I've taken into prisons, various institutions, community corrections facilities, juvenile justice, and also use this same program in various organizations for personal and professional development. And one of the things that I say to the individuals when I come in contact with them, I ask them 4 things. Do you want to be free and stay free? Do you want to be clean and stay clean? Do you want to have self-respect and respect from people you care about? And do you want to have some financial stability? And that's to make sure I'm in the right audience. Because if they can answer yes to that, then that means to me at least they're ready to begin to do what's necessary to do it. And to sit here and listen to these gentlemen speak, it's just a privilege to be in this audience. I met John some years ago, and when I showed up out there, I walked back to my car. I left out because I said, God, what are you doing? You know, I ain't trying to do this no more, you know. And come back in, and the rest is history. John brought me in there, and I started doing some training and some programming and things like that. And for the last 17 years of my life, the Lord Jesus Christ delivered me from drugs and alcohol some 17 years ago. And one of my commitments to the Lord is that I would do everything I can to help every man, woman, and child to make it free. And I've been doing that. And when I met John, he just opened up another opportunity to carry out that fulfillment of commitment that I made to the Lord, you know. And it's just, and it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, but it is well worth it. You know, our motto with Manifest Excellence Now Institute is Masters of the Art of Building People. And the same way companies want to build their bottom line, I believe if we can build people, they'll change the quality of their life. And what John is doing is just an example of that. And him to allow me to participate is an honor and a privilege. And just to be able to sit here and be amongst these gentlemen and see what's happening in their lives and to listen to them tell the stories. And I hope that folks will just recognize that don't judge the book by its cover. You know, I talk about relationship, about communication, about understanding. And until we get to the point of understanding, we need to leave judgment to the side, get to know the individual, and provide that opportunity. That's what I see John doing. And John is hard. He's hard on folks, but we need somebody to be hard.
Absolutely.
I mean, the easy life, you know, waking up when you want to wake up, making money, telling people to go do things, you need somebody to be on your case. And I was thinking about Abraham's name, you know. Abraham means the father of nations. And that's what God has done in a sense, has placed John in a position to be a father to many men. When I go into prison, 75% of them don't know their daddy or don't have a relationship with them. And the minimization of not having a father in your life is something we got to get away from. It is important. And it's just a blessing that people like this will show up and become surrogate parents in a sense. And all of us, in some sense, have been able to do that particular thing. You know?
Thank you so much, Doctor. We've got a call on the line right now. Caller, you still there?
Keith Jackson.
Yes, sir. Go ahead with your question or your comment, sir.
What was that?
Go ahead with your question or your comment.
Okay, yeah, I'd just like to say, man, Brother McGee helped me change my life around so much. I mean, I met him down in the juvenile services, and it's been crazy ever since I met him. I mean, my name is Keith Jackson. I mean, I don't know if you remember me or not, but I mean, I was headed down the wrong path, and he helped me out a lot. He put me on the right track, I think so.
Great. Thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Corrections, opportunities to turn around, make a U-turn for some of us, all part of this thing, Doc. But I'm going to go to Dr. Huff for a second, and I'm going to ask him, and of course the work he does at the neighborhood house and trying to be a positive influence in the community where the neighborhood house is located. But Doc, what do you see from a society standpoint? Now, you're there and you see our kids from the littlest of them and sometimes to the oldest of them. What is happening out there that we need to grasp to begin to turn some of this around?
I think first we need to come in touch with ourselves and understand who we are, because we do have some solutions, and we see solutions right here today. And I'm going to take just a little digression here. First of all, in order to design programs for African American men, we have to design them different. You know, most of the programs, and I run a settlement house, most of the programs we have designed are really designed for women. And John and I have had this constant conversation constantly. We have to look at a new approach, because now our men are asking for something different. Our economy is not like it used to be, where it would suck them up and give them a job somewhere. But they need some real laugh things. Now, I'm going to take another digression. You know, I wrote a book along with a friend of mine. His name is Ryan Mills. The name of the book is Style Over Substance, a critical analysis of African-American teenage subculture. What we did, we went back and we asked young men like that, what is it? What is it that you're beginning to do? We begin to notice things that we never noticed before. And that's in the projects in Cleveland. They was writing on the walls. We'd never seen nothing like that before. We asked them why. We asked them what had changed. And they begin to say things to us like, we don't want to live the kind of lives that you all live. We ain't going to do the kind of things that you all were doing. We want it, and we want it now. We said, wait a minute. What's this now culture? We begin to figure out what was happening. Some things were designed for them. They were into style. Everything was being interpreted for them. And guess what? We as men were backing up, and we were afraid of them. We were afraid to say, hello, how you doing? When they walked down the street, we crossed the street. They knew we were scared. They knew we were scared. So we had to begin to do some different kind of things. So I wasn't so much concerned about society. I had to first be concerned about me. How can I walk and approach and say, hello, how you doing? And guess what we found out? We were shocked. 90% of the young men we spoke to, guess what they said? How you doing back? So we began to study them even more to try to find out, how did this style come in place? That's when society came in and said, look, you don't have to do nothing else. We will interpret everything for you. We will tell you to wear baggy pants. We will tell you what kind of music to listen to. We will tell you what kind of programs to listen to. And people said, y'all can't fight that. We said, yes, we can. We designed what we call a positive education program that first of all talked about personal development. We have to understand that we have the solutions. And we have to start on a personal level. So I have to start by saying, hello, how you doing? I cannot walk away from, I can't be afraid.
No, I think that's a critical thing. I think that's a critical thing for African American men. We cannot be afraid. I mean, marketing will tell you, I say kind of crazy stuff. Well, Alan know I say crazy stuff. And people say, I cannot believe you said that to, I mean, I tell the drug dealers, I'm like, look, you make $5 a day, you're dusty on the corner, why are you there? You know, you're not making no money. And so, you know, Abraham, they all laugh at me. Because, you know, I say things that really, most people want to get up and smack me for. But I think what we cannot do is be afraid to tell the truth.
Thank you. That's right.
And I think, you know, I heard somebody say this past couple of weeks that, well, we need more jails, and every drug dealer we find, we're going to make sure they go to jail. Well, going to jail ain't solving anything. I mean, 67% of the men in prison are black. We make up 12% of the population. That is absolutely horrific. Why can't we take that same dollars that we would want to take and put a person in prison and do what Mr. Newberry said? He has $2 million. He says, well, I got to spend it. This is the way I'm going to eliminate crime. I'm going to go out there, give these guys an opportunity. Not only are they getting a job, but they're getting some knowledge. They're getting guys coming and talking to them, and everybody got a standard. And everybody's saying you got to struggle. And we got guys who say, look, don't sell drugs. We got guys who go out and try it. They come back. I want to get back in the program. Please let me back in the program. No, you made a choice to do something different. But their peers didn't decide. Do they get to come back? And it's really kind of funny. You hear these guys, and they're like, oh, it looked different when I was working for somebody. Now that I'm responsible, oh my God, they don't come to work on time. I don't want to be bothered with them. But part of what it is that we have been so afraid, I think, in our community, and we were looking for the outside community to have a decision for us, that we can make that decision. You know, and what we as professional African American men have to do, we can't leave it to women. We have to decide. We have the education. We have the dollars. I can't be afraid to talk to these brothers. I got to go talk to them, and then I got to tell them that ain't right, and you need to do something different.
The truth. That's right. And you know, and I don't want to be a commercial, but I need to say that we have to design our programs different. You know, I don't see nothing wrong with staying open to 8 o'clock at night, and I see nothing wrong with having a recreation component to your program. I also don't see anything wrong with having a family night, so they could bring their families together, so we could celebrate something. See, those are the kind of things that we got to do. See, if we just, you know, and being involved with training programs is something that has always bothered me, because we do some of the best training programs in the world. We could teach you to lay bricks all day long. Then we take you out to the job, you know nothing about the work culture. You can't keep the job. So there has to be a combination of the two. And I think from what we're seeing up here, we see that the combination worked. John has designed it different. It makes sense, you know. And the best thing of it, and I want to just, I think we need to highlight this all over the place. The community is going to be better. Because you ain't going to let nobody mess up that stuff that you done put together.
Right.
You know, and you know that. I know that. And guess who else know that? Everybody's walking up and down the street. They say, nah, man, maybe we ought to go over here. All right.
Let me ask Mr. Newberry a question here. Bring him back into the discussion as we kind of wrap up here, gentlemen. The hours is going by so quickly. But again, you said early on that well, I'm going back to your comments in the paper, I guess is what I'm going to make reference to now, that it made business sense. You made a business investment. How has the return been thus far?
The returns have been very promising. Honestly, they're working for low wages, which commensurate with their skill level. But the good thing for them is when this project is done, I know some of them are going to be hired by the construction crews that are working on the property because they're working exceptionally hard. And now they've learned skills, so they'll continue. They'll be moving on to other projects. Hopefully, they'll still be living at Woodland Meadows. Now they're productive. Their families, you know, they're contributing to paying the rent. These are now productive members of the community, not just Woodland Meadows, but Columbus and Franklin County at large. Yeah. True. They're now, yeah, it's completely flipped. And so for me, it makes a ton of sense. I think the trouble in a lot of the programs, like you mentioned, they're designed, okay, well, here, let's provide job training. But really, here, they're getting on-the-job training. They're in the classroom 2 weeks, and the biggest thing there is to simply see that they can show up 2 weeks on time and stay for the full time and really learn some soft skills just so when they're out there, they can learn what it really takes to succeed and be productive. But the bottom line is it makes business sense. And I mean, I've been very blessed to have John really be the liaison with this program. But I think by proving it here, this could flourish. There's no reason this couldn't happen. If I was to do another project in a year, there's no question I'd set up a program exactly like this, and that's what I would want.
What would you advise then persons who may be setting up projects across the city? We're hopefully going to be experiencing a building boom here in Columbus. That certainly is our objective and so forth. But what would you say then to a person who may be considering a project out there now that might require labor? Would teach be an option for them?
Teach should be your #1 option.
Call John.
Yeah, don't call a temporary labor agency where they simply sign up and they're just there as a connection. Here, this is a connection, but these they're held to a standard. They have, I mean, if they don't fulfill what John lays out for them, which are really truly our high standards, then they're out of the program. And there's right now they know they're out of the program. There's 80, 100 people right behind them, ready to fill their shoes. So there's some pressure. It's not just this. Without a question, it's not a handout program.
We've got just a few minutes, gentlemen. I'm going to end with John over here, but I'm going to come back to you all. Just give me a one-word answer if you can think of one, or a sentence or two, that might describe what your life may have been about or be like today had it not been for Project Teach. Abraham.
My life, just to sum it up, I truly believe my life would have been hell.
Roy Kennedy.
Disastrous, in one word.
Disastrous. Mark?
I'd like to say probably unfulfilled, dissatisfied. Unfulfilled, dissatisfied.
That's fine. Delane?
I'd be very discontented and possibly in trouble again, but yeah, definitely.
What statement, and I'm just going to ask one of you to speak out, what statement would you all make today to a young person watching this program today that either is a wannabe hustler or is out there full time now? Somebody tell him something. Tell him something.
I would say that you know, we all have potential, you know, and for someone to go out there and to deal drugs and not realize or try to exploit their own potential, you know what I mean? Don't sell yourself short. I mean, we're productive. We are productive people. You know what I mean? You can produce. You can do anything that you want to do. You know, it's not. I mean, nothing's going to be easy, but you could. I mean, you can do it. I mean, that's what he's talking about with the investment, investing in the community. I mean, we can produce, we can work. You know what I'm saying? We can create, we can innovate. You know what I'm saying? John always talk about reinvent yourself. What you were yesterday, you don't have to be that today. Today's it's a new day.
So greater later.
It gets greater later.
It gets greater later. John, last word, sir, as we wrap up here. Tell us again, how can we get involved with Teach? What can the community do? How do we contact you? How would persons who are interested find out more about their organization, et cetera?
Well, here's really, it's not so much about the message of Teach that I want to leave. It's the message that African-American young men don't belong in prison. And we need to change the paradigm of how we look at African-American young men. If we want to talk about rebuilding communities in the city of Columbus, we have to have the discussion of what are we going to do with the guys that's hanging out on the corner. And the guys on the corner are human beings, and they don't belong. We don't need to send out another brother to prison. And all these young guys will tell you, I don't believe in violence either. And all the violence that has happened of lately, it's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
It's absolutely unacceptable. But the unacceptable, too, is also, what is the alternative? You know, we're going to pick them up and put them in jail and create what? Well, I say pick them up, put them in employment, put them in education, and create a man that's going to lead his family in the future. If you want to get involved, you know, our phone number is 614-239-7788.
Let's get to it again now.
614-239-7788. The other thing is I believe and say is that for every African-American male that is out there, and from every white male that is out there that has resources, I would like for you to just take 1 minute and think about what could you do different and what you can contribute. Because as Mr. Newberry is contributing his dollars, he's allowing us to have the resources to do what we need to do to change the community. And guess what? It's not because we're taking young men to jail. It's because we're giving them employment. These guys go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. They work all day. They work on weekends. Sometimes they're working free. They're holding each other accountable. They're getting paychecks. And guess what? These are guys who may have had a record, but they're not trying to go back there. They're trying to go forward. So let's loose the change of the past on young African-American men, and let's set them free. But let's give them the resources so they can be set free.
We're going to put a pin. Thank you. We're going to put a pin in this conversation this evening to our viewers out there. We've just begun this dialogue and conversation, but we're so glad you joined us this night for this very special program. We've been talking about Project Teach here on Community Tapestry. Again, we need to be about the business of trying to be problem solvers. Get involved out there in very special kinds of ways, just like Project Teach has done. To all my guests, thank you all for being. I wish you all the very, very best. To all of our other guests here who are working so hard as co-laborers in this effort, Mr. White, wish you continued success as well. And to all of you out there, hope that you'll join us at another time. Look forward to seeing you again on Community Tapestry. Good evening.
Dinosaur. I'm not 64 bits. I don't play pro ball. What I am is a mentor. I'm not a psychologist, but I'm a listener. Unleash hopes. Create self-esteem. Don't have all the answers, but I'm a mentor. I make a difference. This is my reward.
Kids who have mentors are less likely to do drugs. Be a mentor.
You might decide to change your hair if everyone else did. You might decide to get a tattoo if everyone else did. You might even decide to smoke pot if everyone else did. Well, guess what? Not everyone else does.